Now, I know that it's not the transfer window right now, and it isn't going to be for quite some time, and we still have a Premier League season to survive, but there has been a little bit of news on a repeat target that Leeds United have kept track of and kept an eye on for a hell of a long time now, and I figured it was worth a little bit of an update. The player in particular was Harry Wilson. Harry Wilson, you may have noticed that Leeds were looking at in the summer, made a move on deadline day, didn't end up happening mainly because his contract was running low. That contract is now down to only 3 months left, and Fulham haven't yet had the opportunity to renew that contract, which you kind of look at and you think that's a fairly silly move. Harry Wilson's been very, very good for them so far this season, so why haven't they renewed his contract? However, this story might sort of lay a little bit of light on it and explain a little bit further. In essence, they have attempted to extend his contract once so far this season. There has been something on the table for him. However, he's looked at that and he's gone, well, we'll see what happens. Which isn't the most promising thing for a Fulham fan, because if you're a Fulham fan, you sort of say, well, we kind of could do with him being re signed. The news that's come out very, very recently is that there has been an improved contract offer thought to have been tabled. I'm just sort of nabbing that quote from where I read it. So currently he's sat on £55,000 a week, which is a fair chunk of change, let's be honest, and significantly more than a lot of Premier League players. It's sort of your lower table Premier League club's decent footballer amount of money. However, we can reportedly expect that to be boosted to something like £70,000 to £80,000 a week. To contextualise that for us Leeds United fans, that's sort of what Okafor or Longstaff are earning, which is fairly hefty, let's be honest here. And it's about 10k less than Jack Harrison was on before he went to Fiorentina. Now we're paying roughly 50% of Harrison's wages, something like that. For context, in Fulham terms, it would put him roughly where Iwobi is, but it'd be like he'd be the fourth, fifth highest earner at Fulham, which is a fairly significant chunk of change. Now, a lot of people will look at Wilson and go, do we necessarily need him? And will he necessarily come to us? I'll get to that second part in a minute's time. But if you're not super familiar with Harry Wilson, one, where have you been for a while? Two, I can help out with that. This season so far, he has played in 27 games for Fulham in the league, managed in that time 9 goals, which is a very solid return for his role. In addition to 6 assists, that's 15 goal returns in 27 games, which is incredibly solid. He's been a fundamental part of the way that Fulham have played this season. Add on to that the fact that the guy is 28 years old, it sort of puts him in the bracket of players that Leeds United would like to potentially make a move for. And you add on to that, he's the sort of wide number 10 that we would need in the sort of one or not a but good category, then the idea of Leeds United potentially looking at making this move becomes significantly more understandable. Like, he's on ridiculously good form. Tick, brilliant, wonderful. Fits in with the age that we tend to look for players. Brilliant, tick, there we go. In a position that we want. Tick, bosh. And as we saw with Bonanotte, we're more than happy to go back in for players that we didn't sign in the first place. Also of note, Autanaka. So it all sort of adds up to it would make a hell of a lot of sense for us to make this move for Harry Wilson in the summer, because once that contract expires, we can be all over him. However, a weird thing, European clubs have been able to get in contact with him since the 1st of January, so it's a little bit odd that Fulham have let it run this low. Further on the sort of details of this, we need to talk a little bit about the collapsed move that happened in August or September. I suppose it was kind of both. Harry Wilson's spoken on that one a little bit, and this is why I've got a little bit of confidence that Leeds might be able to get this done. So the way that he phrased it in an interview after the fact was that from his perspective it was going to happen, then it wasn't. It was back on, then it was off. It wasn't a certain few days, which the idea is generally that he was very much open to a move to Leeds United. And for me, that also says that he probably agreed terms with Leeds, because there's no way that a move is on, then it's off, then it's on, then it's off, then it's on, then it's off, without him having agreed personal terms with Leeds United, because how would it be on if he didn't agree any form of personal terms? Like, it's all well and good us saying, we want to sign Harry Wilson and the move is on. If Harry Wilson looks at that and goes, okay, now we talk about my pay. That's not the way it works these days when it comes to football transfers. So we will have agreed some form of contract with him at that point, which says that we can get that done, and he had an interest in the move. In addition to that, over the next couple of months. Wales have a couple of World Cup qualifiers to play. They will be looking to get to the US, and during that time, we'll have Ampadu in his ear, we'll have Rodon in his ear, we'll have Darlow in his ear, maybe Charlie Crew, I don't know, but is he necessarily going to be speaking in our favour? I don't know. But we'll have Dan James also in his ear. It's effectively the Wales gang that get the opportunity to say, God, it's bloody nice in Leeds, isn't it? Which would be absolutely beneficial for us pushing for this move. And the fact that he's both clearly considered it in the past, will have that surrounding, and he's not signed something with Fulham already, says that he's potentially very close to going somewhere else in the summer. That, or he's just waiting to have the best possible opportunity to negotiate with anyone that he wants. Like, he'll get more cash out of Fulham if he waits, sees Leeds' offer on the table and goes, alright, Fulham, do better. It makes sense from the player's perspective. However, it's not just us that have an interest. Also rumoured to be interested are Wrexham, which is a bit of a weird one, but it kind of makes sense when you consider Welsh, and this would presumably only happen if they get promoted to the Premier League, because they would need to add a hell of a lot. And weirdly, they've got a sort of cultural thing of, well, we view ourselves as a very, very Welsh club. Let's sign a Welsh footballer to go with it. But in addition to that, Aston Villa also reportedly have a little bit of an interest, which is sort of odd, because they also signed Harvey Elliott, who plays a very similar role, and he's not really played in the slightest. Harvey Elliott being in a situation where if he crosses a certain number of appearances, he needs to be bought permanently by Villa, and Villa don't want to sign him permanently, which means that he's just sort of sat waiting to leave Villa at some point and then presumably be sold by Liverpool at a later date. Very, very weird. So it's a little bit of a worry. Would Harry Wilson end up in that exact same situation? I don't know. We'd have to find out. But ultimately, I'm feeling a little bit okay on the Harry Wilson stuff. The fact that they've tabled an improved contract offer doesn't particularly worry me, because I think from Wilson's perspective, it's a case of wait it out and see what the best offer is come the summer. And hopefully, we are able to stay up and then stake our claim to say, look, clearly you can push your way in ahead of Brendan Aronson. I love Brendan Aronson, but he's not the attacking creator and finisher that Harry Wilson is, which is a little bit of a shame, but that happens. So he'd potentially be starting on a decent amount of money in a club that clearly has a lot of upside. So hopefully that all works out, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I would end the video there, but before I do, I have a little fun fact, and let me know in the comments if you want other little fun facts, because this was great. We all know that buonanotte translates to good night in Italian, so I've been calling him Mr. Goodnight for a while, like from time to time. Did you know that the term fecund means having a significant ability to reproduce? It's specifically, it's fecundity, but that sounds pretty close to fecundo. So from now on, I think I might call him Mr. Spunky Goodnight, or something along those lines. I don't know. These are the thoughts that you have at 3:30 in the morning when you're recording a video, aren't they? Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, pop a like on it. Let me know if you want more fun facts, or just pop in other nicknames for footballers in the comments. That'd be lovely. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there. See you later. What a weird way to end a video. That's fine. Let's roll with it.